morning, and I'm Samson Balogo, and this is Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, Ibadan. We begin today's conversation about a recent occurrence at the National Assembly where families of detained military officers have taken their protest public following allegations of a coup plot. What are they demanding? What do we know about the detention so far? And how does this moment shape public perception of security, justice, and due process in the country? This is our Daybreak Gist this morning. We'll also bring you the weather report, and shortly after, Daybreak News and with the major developments affecting the day.
And Amanulu Akpoidu, we then turn our focus to the newspaper headlines. This morning's front pages reflect a mix of security concerns, public reactions, and public sentiment. We'll take a closer look at the key stories and the angles behind them with our analyst, Adeyemi Adebisi, a public affairs analyst.
And I'm Oluwayemi Adelako. For today, our big story examines a recurring pattern in moments of national crisis. Crisis response, or PR ritual, the politics of condemnation. When incidents occur, official statement often follows swiftly. But beyond the language of condemnation, what reaction is taken and how effective is it? Joining us for that conversation is Honorable Molaja Olawi.
And before we close, Trend Watch will highlight the conversations gaining momentum across the country.
It is another morning of critical questions.
Right.
Let's begin this morning.
Yes, we shall begin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We must say good morning to our esteemed viewers out there. It has been one straight week of roller coaster stories. And as you would want to slow down, especially on a Friday, the stories are not slowing down. A lot has been happening, and stories are developing. The president was in Plateau Jos, and then we were talking about protests of wives and families of detained military officers and some who were said to be involved in the recent coup in the country, or let me say, one way or the alleged coup, let's put it that way. And then the question is, what exactly is the problem? Was there ever a coup? Because at the point when this news actually broke, I think some of these online media houses broke the news, and then there was a counter report from the presidency that there was nothing like that. And a few months down the line, people were being handpicked from their homes, and some from their military bases, and say, look, you were involved in this particular coup, and then they have been in detention since then. So what happens to, for example, a soldier that has been accused or maybe confirmed to be a participant in a coup? And also, what happens to a civilian who was also used? Because I could remember there was this former chairman of a Nigerian Guild of Directors who was also, one way or the other, was part of the said coup and was also arrested. And their families are protesting. What will be the fate of these people? And what will the federal government do? Is protest enough to set them free from the shackles with which they have found themselves? It's a very big one on the show this morning.
Right. I think you're very important, especially taking it from the old announcements. There was a coup, there was no coup. And then I always say that, the battles, or let me say the issues that we face in this country, you can always trace it to the foundation, because initially, the consistent dismissal of what later becomes the truth will always result in more controversy and then more issues for the country. So at the end of the day, you have arrested this person. I think the former director, that's Brigadier General Tuko, Gusau, came out to say that indeed there was an attempted coup. I think that was around October 4, and then about 16 officers were arrested, and then it's been over 6 months, and then what they said is, okay, we want to conduct investigations, and then I think there was even a time they announced that, okay, we are done conducting the investigations, and then the families are waiting. When are you going to try them? Because at the end of the day, if you have the evidence against them, you should take them to the court, and then let them plead their case. If you are found guilty, they face the tune, or they face the dance, and if they are not guilty, then you free them. But then over 6 months, the families, I think about 20 wives came out on that Wednesday, and then quite a number of children. Even two-month-old baby was brought to the scene, and I think they were not there alone. They were accompanied by the likes of the popular lawyer Diji Adeyanju, and of course the activist that's Omoyole Sowore. And then people are saying Sowore is always everywhere. He's always in a way he can gain that more popularity, but there is beyond that. He decided to just go with them, and then they were there with these women, and then the women were saying you have no right to actually, detain them without, trying them is not, constitutional. And they also mentioned that, detaining these people without trying them is injustice. And the children, if you watch the videos, honestly, you might be moved a little bit to say that, okay, these people are really sad about the whole situation. Yes, you have conducted investigations, but then can they be tried? Because at the end of the day, we want to know the bottom of this matter. So going forward now, they are saying that after this whole, cool thing, why is it that they have not been able to find a solution? Why is it that they have not been tried? I don't know whether it's because of, when it comes to army issues like this, you really cannot compare it to normal charges or normal cases. I think they are going to be tried by a particular court, not just maybe normal courts like the other issues. Maybe that's why it's stalling. Exactly. So maybe that's why it's stalling. I really cannot tell. But I want to believe that even during the military era, when issues like this happen, I don't think it took this long for them to actually solve this. I want to believe that, the court is already there, and then they can attend to the situation. So it's something that we can really solve, and then to ensure that nothing like this will happen again. So whether it was an attempt, some people are even saying, even the wives, one of them mentioned that, this is just, sinister. There's something sinister about the arrest beyond it was an attempt to kill. So we really cannot take that, as something that is true, especially when they have not been tried in court. You have the evidences, take them to court, let them plead their case, really.
How the government really attend to this issue is going to either deepen a case of a recurrence or stop or nip it in the bud. Let me put it that way. So this is why this is very important as of now, because if the government decides to just let it slide and probably forgive them, there's a price to pay. If the government decides to pursue it to the end, and we know what is likely to happen, especially with the recent, and what with the law speaks to that particularly, we know what will also happen from that line too. But there's something I kind of like checked out, and I saw that there's something called the contagion effect. And the contagion effect is such that if a coup attempt happens anywhere, whether failed or successful, the chances are that not just that nation, but every surrounding nation might want to also go and follow suit.
Right.
They might want to do the same, because we've seen almost every of the coup you've seen had a trace in neighboring countries.
Faso,
exactly, Mali, the Sahelian regions.
Sahel.
And you can tell that this is actually, and Nigeria for now, the most populous black nation, economy-wise, not doing fairly, but it's just at the top, and you can't put it down. Talking about industry and some other, facets of life, Nigeria is right there. So we can say, in a lot of ways, some have said Nigeria is no longer the giant of Africa. But anyway, whether giant of Africa, but Nigeria is still a giant, in the sense that a lot of people,
giant, if not Nigeria.
So a lot of people still look up to Nigeria, because if you say, bring out the top African nations, Nigeria is tall. It might not be the topmost, but it's tall. So everybody gets to see, and whatever is tall is obvious, it's conspicuous, right? So people get to see the country Nigeria. So whatever happens from this issue, and I think that is why it is a bit delicate. If left to what should happen, it should not even take this long. Right. 160 days of detention, maybe it's like they're trying to think about forgiving. Because ideally, once you've attempted coup, I think I was speaking to one of my lecturers who was in the University of Ibadan at the time, and I remember he said something quite interesting, but not so interesting. They said they came to pick almost even some lecturers that were involved at the time. Some professors were actually picked, and unfortunately, you cannot even hear anything about them again, because what happened. It's not. I don't want to put it all out how it happened, but a lot of persons were unpicked, and then I don't want to call what happened to them. But the case is, I think the government is trying to temper justice with mercy, and that's why we are seeing a prolonged case. I do not like the fact that I don't like it when you parade children in front of camera, personally, right? Whatever the case is, those children are innocent. They really do not understand what treason in the country is. Not something to be forgiven easily, and it's something that it's like what we call, it's against the national peace, right? It's against the peace and serenity of the country. So if you commit that, or you have been alleged to commit that, then you have to dance to the tune. I know the wives are coming to say, whatever the case is, put it to the test of the court. Let the court decide, and let us have that proceeding. But I'm also afraid that when you do that, I know this was incited. There's no child that will come up and say, I'm not seeing my dad or I'm going to protest. They don't even know what protest is. So it must have been instigated by their parents and maybe some other persons to say, so let's go. And the problem is, if they forgive them, what happens to another set of people who wants to do the same? I saw some of the names of the people. I saw some of them are not the highest ranked officials. Some of them are mid-ranked. And I think from research, mid-ranks to highest also are the people who intentionally plot this coup. And you can tell a lot of things. But I do personally don't like it when it has to be that whenever we want to protest, we bring out children out in the sun and say, we have carry placards. These children are too young to understand what they are doing right now. You might say they miss their fathers, which is okay. It's okay to miss your parents. And I'm not trying to be without emotions. I'm saying this because I understand what it also means to forgive those people, or probably not, put them to the test of the court in the courtroom, right? And I'm saying this that I personally do not like when you parade children in front of camera, because these children someday will grow up. And God forbid, I don't know, whatever happens with their father, that would be another kind of story. But the story would be that I saw you when you were young, you were protesting that your father should be released. And a lot of you don't even want to imagine all of the stigma and those things. And because social media does not forgive. And if we have the faces of those children on social media and on every internet facility that you can get,
doesn't forget.
It does not forget, and it does not make so much sense for these kids. Why don't we have the mothers alone? I saw that Showore was part of this. I'm not really against anybody, but I do not like it when you parade children. That's my point. And again, let me now take it back to whether or not the government will forgive these people. But in a way, I was trying to see this, and I saw that maybe the government is trying to help you by not prosecuting them yet, by not taking it to court yet. Maybe detention is just a way to give them the punishment so that they can know you've done something evil. So they just, and then later secretly dispose of them, or maybe release them back to society. But the case for me now is that, just like they have pleaded, they want instant court action. They want the court to take its full course. So let's have it. If they did something wrong, then they should dance to the tune of whatever music they play, and that should be the case. I also support that. But going forward, I think there should be a rule against this kind of things, involving kids in this kind of protest. They do not have to protest at a young age. They don't have that.
Well, I'll start from where you stopped. I think the protest involving the kids was instigated by some people who were also present. No need mentioning names, of course. They were also present on the protest ground. And I really do not like when people look for cheap popularity, riding on the misfortune of some other people just to get that. I think that should stop on humanity basis. Away from there, you also mentioned that if they would be forgiven, I think according to the Nigerian Constitution and the Criminal Code, says treason, treasonable felony, and some other criminal charges are not forgivable, especially when it just happened. It might be a long-time thing, and then they say, oh, probably you have served some years in jail, and they say, oh, let's just forgive you, okay? So I don't think they are thinking of that right now. And judging by what has been happening, especially for those who didn't even commit treason, it is about fraud. They are facing a lot at this time. We have seen people come out of court and here. Even Malam Nasir, after the burial of his mother, was sent back to where he came from. So it tells you that I don't think anybody will be looking at what has been done, if at all there's anything like that, as something that can be forgiven just like that in an instant. Away from there, nobody releases some people who have been adjudged to be criminals unless investigation has been completed. And then if that will be done, it will be on bail. And that, for me, I don't think will happen to someone who is said to have committed treason or treasonable felony. Also, away from there, it is also important to note that pardon works in Nigeria, but then not in all cases. I've seen it work, but most of the times, if you check, it has always been about fraud. Someone stole so amount of money after so many years. It happened to Alamesia when Goodluck Jonathan said, yes, he's my boss, I think we have to pardon him now, and it was done. So it works in Nigeria, but then conviction will have to come first. You cannot be pardoned unless you have been convicted. So they will have to go through that process of conviction. Away from there, I think as it stands, the case might not be as quick as people think it will come, because according to information out there, I was made to understand the fact that civilians are involved in this. And once civilians are involved, if it is court-martial, it can be as quick as possible because they know the law, and even an average soldier knows that if you do anything that has to do with mutiny, treasonable felony within the Nigerian military ranks, you know what exactly awaits you as an end result. So it will be as quick as that. But if civilians are involved, it will be taken to the court of law, which is the Federal High Court in Nigeria. And that will include no judge will preside over a case that has no basis and no thorough investigation. In fact, most of the times, the investigation would have pointed towards a particular direction that, oh, these people have done this, and then this is to be done. So now where I'm going is that if civilians are accused of plotting against the government of this president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they will be tried in a civilian court, okay? And the other ones that are involved will also be court-martialed. So it's a two-way thing.
It's complicated.
It's complicated, one way or the other. So it has to be properly taken care of. Otherwise, there will be an issue. Also, if military personnel are involved, a court-martial is a military tribunal that handles mutiny, disobedience, attempted overthrow within armed forces. And overthrow is considered to be the greatest offense you can commit within the military ranks. So it means that whoever is that civilian that has mixed up with the military to commit this kind of offense against the Nigerian Constitution, which is the Constitution and the Criminal Code, then a larger problem awaits them, because nobody is going to sweep that under the carpet. Because one thing is that some people will now ride on the fact that some people fought to see the democracy Nigeria currently enjoys today, which started in 1999 down to 2026. And they wouldn't want that to be truncated, because people who lived, some people who experienced, at least some of us who experienced military rule at that time, would understand what it means. The difference is clear. Sometimes I laugh when people say, oh, I want the military to take over. I just smile, because you were not there. I mean, Michael will tell you what he saw at that time, because you practically no freedom. And some people, they suffer so much that they have to go to sawmill to pack sawdust so they could cook. Now you get gas. It's quite simple. Now you can buy anything you like and just do whatever you like. And that time was not as easy, especially for business owners. So you cannot just say, oh, because you are discontent with the current administration and you want military to take over, just like that. Just go back in history. Maybe you should read more, and then you would understand what you are calling.
Right. So let me take it from the angle of forgiveness. I really do not think it's a question of forgiveness. Why do I say that? Because according to the law, even the thought of any coup is a crime.
It's a crime.
Whether you later embark on it or not is a crime. So at the end of the day, I think it's a question
in fact, that you knew, even if you were not a participant, that you knew it was going to be done, and you did not say anything to the constituted authority, just like late Governor Isiaka Abiola Ajimobi will say. It's a crime under the law. You are a participant,
right,
because you heard about it and you said nothing.
Just like in the example, where if you sit close to someone who is cheating and you didn't mention anything, you are right.
That's why we say if you say something,
say something. All right, so going back to the discussion right now. So I really think it's a question of, are they guilty or not? And how are we going to ascertain that? Let them be tried. It's very simple. So at the end of the day, maybe this whole process, in as much as a lot of persons might not, support it because of the children, and of course, is a bit, complicated. Maybe it will hasten the government in a way, or let me say the army, and then maybe now that, especially the location of that process, maybe they'll find a way to hasten of things to say that, okay, why is it that these people have not been tried? Because in this same country, we have seen cases that lasted for about 4 or 5 years, and they are still on the matter.
There are more.
So if
that last longer than that.
Honestly, so I don't know why things like that will take so long. And then going back to the whole issue of coup or no coup, there's something that is so sad about this entire situation. Is the fact that the government they don't know how to trace issues. If at all the successful coup I've seen, not just in Africa now, or let me say majorly Africa now, it started with a rumor. Why is it that there can be a chance, of a coup? And then I think if you go back, the reason why the military took over, in the 60s, in the 70s and 80s,
lack of credible intel.
Exactly. We had external factors, we had internal factors. One example of internal factor is, there were palace coup within the military, because some junior officers felt like, okay, why is it that the senior officers are treated like kings and the junior ones are treated, they are not treated, so well.
Not so good.
The senior officer, they have access to the suites, they have access to luxurious cars, to a lot of it. And then the junior officers, they will just work and get tired. And then external factor, intense corruption in the country. I remember the case of Operation Wetie that led to the death of so many. I remember the case of Action Group crisis that led to the death of so many. So these are crises here and there. So that was the reason why the military felt, okay, these people are not doing right, let's just take over. And then they took over. Just like you mentioned, I was not around during the military era, right? But I read archival materials, I saw videos, and I can tell you that we do not want any coup
repeat of that
in Nigeria as we speak. I mean, one of my lecturers would always say that, the worst of a democratic government is better than a military government. You don't want to taste something like that again. So the government can find a way to trace whatever it is, that even led to an attempted coup in the first place. Are the factors external or are they internal? As a matter of fact, if the factors are internal, you can deal with it. Why is it that some soldiers are not really treated fairly? I recall that recently the president said, let his entire salary, ever since he became president, let them take that money into taking care exactly of soldiers' wife, and then even a lot of persons who were maimed during war and things like that. That's excellent. That's the way to deal with this. Maybe because of this whole attempted coup, we decided to do that. But there are other things that the president and of course the government can do to tackle the internal factors. And of course, how do we even tackle the external factors that are so obvious, to every Nigerian? Corruption is intense, and it's not just at the federal level. Every level, the state, the local government, these are the things that we should begin to look at. So at the end of the day, we don't want, because look at all this Burkina Faso, it all started with a rumor. It all started with saying it's not a coup, it's a coup, this and that. If we trace the issues, we can always put an end to this attempted coup or no attempted coup, really.
So let me speak briefly to the issue of the coup. Of course, we know that detaining a citizen of the country for more than 6 months contravenes the Section 35 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And that's even something that human rights activists and human rights concerned people would want to query, especially now. But I'm also looking at one historical context. But let me also speak that there's something that might happen, which is the erosion of military morale and discipline. If there's any sector in any nation that is more disciplined than the military, I bet to debate that. They are regimented. Some of us, when we served, we saw what happened, right? Their life was so regimented. You have to follow processes. You follow all that command. It's a chain of command. You get this, you do it. So they are the most disciplined set of people you can ever meet. That's why, especially in a sane society anyway. But this is the case now. What can this mean for them? Their morale and their discipline. If this does not really get handled properly, it can demoralize, it can erode the discipline that has been instilled in the military sector. And that is what they work with. And you don't want that to happen. And also their morale. Nigeria is currently facing a lot of issues. It's the job, the responsibility of the military to cater to it. They are fighting insurgents in different parts of the country, and they are really, some of them are not even sleeping well. So all of these can mean so much for them that let's see how these people are going to be treated. Anybody, because what about we? They're saying that if somebody did something wrong and you are not part of it, and then the person still gets a pardon, just like we used to say about pardoning repentant bandits, right? So it will just make everybody feel like, so what's the point of doing good? Why am I doing good all this while? That someone is doing something evil, and then you are still pardoning the person, right? So that's exactly what I'm trying to speak to say, I think in Turkey, there was a time it happened, and the historical context tells us that, the way they handled it in Turkey, I think that was in 2016, there was a failed coup attempt against Erdogan.
They did not even have the time to have this kind of conversation.
So what happened was that the government purged every one of them. It was a fast one. The government purged thousands of officers, right? And that in a way stabilized things in the country, the system, the government system. And it was so a lot of persons are taking insight to say, yes, maybe the coups in the past were a long time. What about the recent 2016 Turkey? How did they handle it? I think I love to say that there's no island. Nobody's an island, right, in yourself. what we do is we can pick from here, from there, because you don't want to wait to get the experience yourself every time to learn. You don't have to be the one suffering before you learn from that. You can take from the suffering of Mr. A, take from the suffering of Mr. B, and put it together. How can I learn from this? And then you move forward. Because whatever happens in this case, I tell you for a fact, has a far-reaching implication beyond 2020, 2030, 2050, and even much more later, especially with the country being at a point it is, and then the Nigerian state being a very, maybe, I don't want to say commendable, but a highly placed society in the African terrain. So I really want to say that to the government officials that this has to be really taken care of as fast as possible.
All right. You just gave it the best definition. I think timing is also of the essence in all of this, because families of these people, they just want to have a closure. They want to know what exactly is happening to their family members who have been in detention for God knows how long. But then
160 days.
160 days. That's a lot.
Oh, you see kids were some persons were arrested. You didn't hear about them in like years.
Right. It does happen. The thing is, you see, when this kind of issue happens, and then some people have been arrested, okay, national security trumps the Constitution, okay? It will take precedence. They have to, if it is about national security, whatever it is in the Constitution will have to be placed on hold, that normalcy is returned. You just mentioned that in Turkey, nobody had the conversation like this. I mean, they took care of business, and today Turkey is Turkey and nobody is saying anything about it. In fact, nobody, across the world, I think people just forget about it and they let it slide. Now, lastly, before we go, I think you mentioned something that really needs to, we need to talk about it. Yes, we are talking about the military officers and some civilians that were involved. How about the chances that there are sponsors? Okay? Most of the times, these sponsors will go scot-free because they are most likely the eyes and mighties in the society, and they are untouchable. So they go scot-free. The ones who were the tools will now be made to bear the brunt of the whole crisis. And sometimes I do say this: don't allow yourself to be made a tool, because you might just not be an essential tool at the end of the day. You might just be disposable, and that will be a crisis for yourself, for the family, and then for the people who solely rely on you for income. And that's what you have when you have their family members by the side of the road protesting, because most of them are the breadwinners of their families from top to bottom. And look at the situation now. These things, coup is a very complex issue. You are just not sure. In fact, attempting it means that you have maybe about 5% chance of carrying it out, because a wind of it by the people at the top in the military might just put an end, and that is what you had there. So let's
don't die in anybody's war. And there was one time I mentioned that most of the soldiers, their wives don't work.
They don't, because
so they depend on the husband.
They move often. I mean, you cannot have a settled life as a wife of a military officer.
You cannot have a serious business or a serious job.
Today in Maiduguri, tomorrow in Borno, in Kano, and then the next day in Ibadan. So they are always moving. Even their children usually do not have a stable life. They are always moving from, unless they just leave them somewhere. You stay here. Let me go and come back and shuffle. But it doesn't really work that way, especially when you are moving across the country from one end to another. I mean, it's really important that the government also looks at the welfare of an average military officer and see if they actually cares for their families. Otherwise, we'll continue to have issues like this on our table. And that's the convenient point to leave this topic this morning. So thank you for joining us so far. It is time for us to take weather reports on the show this morning. I want to help you navigate and plan your day. We'll be starting with the ancient metropolitan city of hospitality, Ibadan, before we move to the state of the center of excellence, and that is Lagos. In Ibadan today, weather currently is at 23 degrees Celsius. It will rise by 6 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius later in the morning. Partly cloudy with humidity at the bare minimum, and that is 1%. And by afternoon, it rises further to 34 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy, humidity climbing to 24%, but it drops in the evening to 27 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy, 0 chance of humidity, and overnight, it will drop to 25 degrees Celsius. It will be cloudy with humidity at 4% in Ibadan. And we'll go to Lagos this morning. That is the center of excellence.
And taking weather for Lagos this morning, weather feels like 29 degrees Celsius currently. And of course, later in the morning is expected to be around 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 10%. In the afternoon, we have 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 3%. And in the evening, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 3%. And overnight, it drops further to 27 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 3%. And that's what we have for Lagos this morning.
And from Lagos, Abeokuta South and Ogun State today, the weather will be partly cloudy across the board at 24 degrees Celsius. In the morning, 30 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy at 2% humidity, and it rises by 3 degrees Celsius up to 33 in the afternoon to remain partly cloudy. It will be mostly cloudy in the evening at 28 degrees Celsius. And overnight, it drops back to 25 degrees Celsius, dropping 3 degrees Celsius to become cloudy at 4% humidity in Abeokuta, South Ogun State today.
All right, moving on, we take this one from Ekiti Southwest this morning. Weather in Ekiti currently feels it's currently at 22 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning it rises by 5 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy with humidity at 1%, and by afternoon it rises further to 32 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy, humidity at 5%, and by evening it will drop to 25 degrees Celsius, returning to be mostly cloudy, and humidity climbs to 7%, and overnight it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, cloudy, humidity at 3% this morning in Ekiti. We now go straight to Port Harcourt, Rivers State this morning.
And of course, taking the weather for Rivers this morning, but it feels like 21 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning is expected to be around 26 degrees Celsius, few showers around 34%. In the afternoon, we have 27 degrees Celsius, isolated thunderstorms around 31%. In the evening, it drops to 23 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 4%. And in the night, it drops further to 21 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 21%. And that's what we have for Rivers this morning.
In Suleja, Niger State, the largest state in the country, the weather will be partly cloudy across board at 23 degrees Celsius. In the morning, it's 29 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly sunny in many parts of Niger State today. And the afternoon, it rises by 5 degrees Celsius, straight up to 34 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, to remain partly cloudy. It will be mostly cloudy in the evening, dropping down to 28 degrees Celsius. And overnight, it drops further by 3 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius to be mostly cloudy at 8% humidity in Suleja, Niger State today.
All right, from Suleja, we move straight to the FCT, and that is Abuja this morning. Weather in Abuja, as we speak, is quite friendly, and as it stands, it is currently at 22 degrees Celsius. It is cloudy right now, and later in the morning it rises by 6 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy, and humidity at the bare minimum, and that is 1%. And by afternoon, it rises by 5 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius, remaining partly cloudy, with humidity also climbing to 5%. And by evening, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy, humidity at 1%. It drops further overnight at 25 degrees Celsius, being mostly cloudy, with humidity climbing to 7% right there in Abuja today.
And from Abuja, we cross to Kano Municipal. Weather feels like 23 degrees Celsius this morning. Later, it's expected to be around 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0%. And in the afternoon, we have 36 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny around 0%. In the evening, it drops to 30 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0%. And overnight, it drops further to 25 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0% as well. And that's what we have for Kano Municipal this morning.
Just 1 degree Celsius difference from Kano to Maiduguri, Borno State today. The weather will be cloudy at 24 degrees Celsius. And in the morning, it's that at 32 degrees Celsius, expected to be cloudy. So in the afternoon, a further rise to 36 degrees Celsius, increase of about 4 degrees Celsius to become mostly cloudy. And it remains mostly cloudy in the evening at 30 degrees Celsius. And overnight, it drops by 4 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius to be cloudy at 2% humidity in Maiduguri, Borno State today.
All right, that's all we can take on weather reports this morning. We say thank you for joining us on the show so far. Do want to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast and our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. Drop your comments, we'll take them on this show. It is time to go on a short break, and when we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. My name is Anu Luakpo Idu. President Bola Tinubu has received Jedian President Muhammad Idris Deby Itno at the State House in Abuja. The visit is Deby's first official trip to Nigeria since President Tinubu attended his inauguration in Jajimena in 2024. The meeting comes a week after Tinubu hosted the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Details of the discussions between both leaders were not immediately available. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, has commissioned completed sections of the Enugu to Onitsha Expressway, calling it a turning point for transportation and economic activity in the southeast. Umahi said commuters previously spent over 7 hours on the route due to years of neglect, but the federal government has now accelerated construction and introduced reinforced concrete pavement for durability. The first 15 kilometers of the new section is 97% complete and it's already open to traffic, with additional stretches under construction, while contractors have been directed to adopt concrete for the remaining segment to ensure long-lasting roads. The minister also highlighted other ongoing federal projects in the southeast, including upgrades to the Enugu to Port Harcourt Expressway, dualization of Enugu to Abakaliki Road, and improvement to access roads around the second Niger Bridge. Oyo State has reaffirmed its commitment to stronger electricity regulation and improved power supply. Chairman of the State Electricity Regulatory Commission and Commissioner for Energy, Professor Daoud Sangodoyi, said the Commission is now the sole regulator of electricity generation, distribution, and consumer protection in the state. Sangodoyin said the Ibadan Independent Power Project is already boosting supply to key public facilities, including the State Secretariat's Government House, BCOS, and Adioyo Hospital. He added that solar street lighting projects are also being expanded across major parts of Ibadan. The commissioner said the state is targeting an additional 15 to 20 megawatts in the coming months through More Power and mini-grid project. The Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Rashidi Ladoja, has received a report proposing legal measures to curb land grabbing in Ibadan. The report recommends the passage of bylaws to strengthen action against offenders. It also proposes special tribunals for speedy trial of land grabbing cases. Oba Ladoja said the move will help protect property owners and curb the menace in the city. Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun has ordered an investigation into the gas leak at Our Ladies of Apostles Secondary School in Ijebu-Ode. The incident affected about 30 students and a teacher, with several victims taken to hospital for treatment. The government has also ordered the immediate closure of the school, and the situation room has been opened at the General Hospital Ijebu-Ode to provide free treatment while officials continue efforts to determine the source of the leak. And in business, the National Community Food Bank program launched at the State House Conference Center in Abuja has received pledges totaling over 66 billion naira. The event also marked the inauguration of its Board of Trustees and was hosted by First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, said the Aliko Dangote Foundation led private sector contributions with a 20 billion naira in-kind pledge over 5 years, followed by NNPC's 10 billion naira commitment. Pate added that the President, Bola Tinubu, has approved a 17 billion naira intervention through the Social Action Fund, while if all 33 state governors contribute 500 million naira each, the fund could exceed 66 billion naira. Kwara State Governor and NGF Chairman Abdurrahman Abdurrazak said the forum will coordinate with other governors to match the federal contribution, and the program aims to procure food locally through community-based platforms in wards and local government, with the Aliko Dangote Foundation urging more private sector organizations to support the initiative. And now in sport, the Super Eagles will face Poland and Portugal in international friendlies during the June FIFA window. The Nigeria Football Federation noted that the clash with Poland will be held in Warsaw on June 3rd. The game against World Cup bound Portugal is scheduled for June 10th, with the venue to be announced later. Nigeria will also defend their Unity Cup title in London from May 26th to 30th. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And that ends Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anu Oluwapo Ido. Thank you for watching.
The national adrenaline is high again, and of course the polity is eating up. And the headlines are screaming. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakwa, and of course this is newspaper headlines and analysis. We have quite a number of headlines to talk about. We start with the Guardian paper this morning, and the banner headline is saying, legacy of waste. Inside Nigeria's mega refineries gulping billions, producing nothing. And of course, we've discussed this over time about the refineries of this country that are not producing anything whatsoever. It's a sad one, and many persons have called for, let's just sell these refineries off, let's use the money for something else. But then, if we sell them off, what are we going to do with the money? That's a big question. And of course, we cross to another headline that says Olubadan's absence may mark coronation of high chiefs in Ibadan. And there's another headline I saw this morning that says it doesn't matter, nothing can stop this coronation. Okay, are we going to have that coronation? Despite his absence, I think it's something to look out for this particular morning. Another headline is saying opposition alerts threat to democracy as INEC cakes clarifies voter revalidation. My analyst yesterday mentioned something about the revalidation, and then he said that it might be something that might not really favor, especially the opposition parties. But at the end of the day, INEC is saying there are reasons for doing that. There's a reason why we are calling for revalidation. Good luck to INEC. I just want to hope that at the end of the day, it will not be to the disadvantage of the electorate and of course to the other parties, the opposition parties. Another headline this morning is 813 Osadis rescued as 197 insurgents surrender in March. The figure is quite high, honestly. We cross another headline that says EFCC demands permanent forfeiture of 57 properties linked to Malami. Honestly, we've been on this Malami issue since last year, over 6 months now, still counting. And of course, the EFCC is demanding permanent forfeiture of 57 properties linked to Malami, not just to Malami alone now, to the son and of course to the wife, because they've been in this together. Then I don't want to talk more about that because some persons will say a family in crime, a family in court, every now and then is something to discuss really. Another headline is saying Easter, Lagos, Ondo, one resident to be security conscious, especially Ondo State, because honestly, in the last few weeks, I've heard reports, terrible reports, about Ondo State, especially about Akure, of people being kidnapped, people that cannot even afford to feed themselves properly 3 times a day. It's sad because when they kidnap those people, they ask for huge ransom, they ask for millions of naira that the family cannot even afford, and sometimes you don't get to hear about them anymore. It's really sad, and it's not just about this state alone. I mean, it cuts across the nation, the state that we have. Away from that, I also have this one that says outrage over Tinubu's 10-minute airport on the visit to Plateau State. People are saying must the opposition party criticize everything. The president didn't go at first. People complained. And then he went there, Atiku, and of course some opposition leaders are saying he was there for 10 minutes. It's a problem in this country because at the end of the day, some persons are supporting the president to say he went there at least. And some are saying, why should you go there and spend 10 minutes? It's an issue. At the end of the day, there's a particular headline I read that said the president also deployed more soldiers to Plateau State to ensure that nothing like that will happen again. And then from that headline, let's cross to New Telegraph. I have the banner headline that says, rising insecurity, experience won't repeat itself. Tinubu vows of just killings. And it's something to talk about. Now, just to say, this is not the first time the president will promise us something. Remember, at the time, the president said, if I don't fix electricity, don't vote for me if I contest for another term. And some persons have taken that promise to heart to say, we are not going to fail President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If after his first term, we do our evaluation and it does not meet up, we are not going to vote. And some persons are ready to vote regardless. So it depends on you, as a voter, to decide whatsoever you want to do. And of course, this is another strong promise to say nothing of sort will repeat itself in Plateau State again. People are watching to say that how is it that the president will assure this, to make sure that we assure us that something like this will not happen again. It's something that we are really looking forward to, not just in Plateau State, in Benue. Look at the Benue massacre. Look at Niger. There was a time a lot of persons were killed. They were massacred in cold blood, because of several reasons. Some of them even got letters before the attack, and at the end of the day, nothing was done. I said this all the time. Nigeria as a country, we are more reactive than proactive. Why can't we put measures in place that can ensure that, these things will not happen? Imagine when people tell you they are coming and eventually they came and they are able to carry out their activities and nothing happens. It's sad, really. Another headline this morning is saying ADC's leadership rejection. Federal government beefs of security at INEC headquarters as party demands Amukwito's sacking, alleged plot to make Tinubu the only option. And apart from him, quite a number of persons in the country are also coming out to say, we know what INEC is trying to do. You want to make sure that it's just one person that will be on the ballot, and we are not going to take that. Some are even saying it's an aberration, that we should not have one person contesting, and then people should have options to decide. Because, I mean, it should be democratic. It doesn't matter who will win the election at the end of the day. Let's have more than one person, contesting for a particular position. Let the people decide whoever they want to vote for. But then this, of course, this one that ADC is coming out to say that this is INEC is trying to make sure that they don't have more than one person on the ballot. It's a strong statement, and I want to believe that INEC will find every means to clarify this, to ensure that, okay, this is not political in any way whatsoever. Because whatever it is that is going on, within the ADC now, there's even a rumor that we are hearing, more like a report, that even a particular governor who was said to defect to the ADC recently, is trying to keep calm, because of the crisis going on in the ADC, to see that, okay, is ADC really a good option for me? I'm speaking about Balam Mohamed now. There was a time we had the report that he might actually jump, he might defect to the ADC. But looking at the crisis in ADC, he has not left the PDP yet. Will he go to APC? That's another question. I watched a video over this particular week, about 2 days ago, and I saw that the chairman of APC actually paid Balam Mohamed a visit. I'm talking about Hiwatda. And some persons are already calculated to say that can Balam Mohamed actually defect to the APC? I mean, for somebody, who has said a lot about the APC as a party, can he defect? But then I'm not surprised. This is Nigeria. Anything can happen. Talk about Balam Mohamed, who has said a lot about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Talk about, the likes of Reno Mokri, who have said a lot about the president. So he went to national TV, called the president, some names, and then he's still working with that same administration. So never say never. Balam Mohamed can decide to move to the APC if ADC is not looking like the best place for him. So let's just fold our hands and then we see how this will play out at the end of the day. And apart from Balam Mohamed, I want to believe that there are other politicians, who want to defect to the ADC, but because of this crisis, they might just, hold on a little bit to say that we may be able to resolve it, before the deadline of INEC, because there's a timeline, when you have to conduct your primaries, when you have to do certain things. Don't forget, after the primaries, you might not be able to leave that party for another party, unlike what, has been happening over the years, because this new electoral act is a little bit strict, compared to what we used to use before. It's a lot, for the opposition parties and, of course, the ruling party. And away from that headline, let's cross to this one that says 2025 WASA, Nigerians missing from best candidate list as 3 Ghanaians outperform other nations. Isadu. Because let me take that headline again so that you can process it, you can deep it, just like the street lingua, deep that statement. It says, Nigerians missing from best candidate list, I'm talking about WAEC now, 2025, as 3 Ghanaians outperform other nations. Why is there no Nigerian on that list of, those who performed really well? It never used to be like this before. And then we are beginning to see the problem now, where it's coming from now, from the level of, WAEC. And that's why you see that even in university, though there are still some Nigerians making us proud across board. There was a report I read recently that a very young girl, won a particular competition, in mathematics, I think in London now, and then she received a prize fee, I think about 250,000. And some persons were asking, some people will just go on maybe an entertainment show and they get millions of naira. And somebody was best in mathematics, and you give that person 250,000. These are the issues. Whether we like it or not, we should talk about them. Because if there's no Nigerian on that list, Nigeria, see, despite our Hydra-headed problems, I can tell you for free that Nigerians are intelligent. And it doesn't matter where we go. It's just like that Bible verse. Wherever the sole of your feet shall step, you take over, right? So wherever Nigerians go to, they stand out. It's like it's part of us. So you see Nigerians, they become doctors overseas, and then they stand out amongst their peers and things like that. But then, if we are not doing well at home, and we do well outside. You know, it's contradictory in a way. So we really should do better. We really should invest in education more. And then it's a sad one, really. I want to believe that it's going to change for the 2026 result. Let's cross to Daily Independent. And this morning, and we have this banner headline that says the recognition of David Mark-led ADC, opposition tackles INEC, APC says democracy at risk. That's very interesting, right? And of course, the riders, ADC asked INEC leadership to step down over partisanship, vows to go ahead with all its programs. Congresses asked Tinubu why he's bent on destroying opposition. APC was to win presidential poll by hook and crook. That's coming from the PDP and ADC, assembly of confused, desperate politicians, says APC. These subtle jabs here and there, we've seen it before. This is not the first time. And of course, it's going to get messier, even as we progress, as we approach the general elections. That one politician will go on national TV and insult other politicians, and those same politicians will go back to that same national TV and they will insult their own too. I mean, we are in that particular season now, and it's about to, be a little bit interesting. I look forward to the next few months in this country because we are about to watch a movie. I tell people, you see these 2027 general elections, we have not seen anything like it before. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot. We just want to hope that it's going to be free and fair. And of course, it's going to be peaceful. And let's cross over from that headline to another headline this morning. I have this one that says, your conduct at Wike's rally is shameful. And Body George tells Saraki, I think, you see, these three individuals, I mean, I don't think they're friends. And of course, it's very obvious the reasons why they're not friends, because of the crisis in PDP. And of course, the Body George is always saying there are some persons that are trying to hijack the party from us. Now we have the factions. And of course, they are even beyond the whole reconciliation talks. We don't even see it happening, honestly. But then good luck to the People's Democratic Party. And of course, away from that line, I also have this one that says, ADC, Obedient Movement, demands resignation of Amupiton, announces Occupy INEC protest. So we might see another protest, beyond the protest that we talked about this morning, about some wives and children protesting against the detention of their husbands, especially after the announcement of the attempted coup. And so we might see another protest. Expect this from you. You are not going to disrupt our party now that we are getting closer to election period. So calling for a sack, I don't really see that happening, because this is not the first time. Even when this Joash Amupiton was appointed, I said it on my show yesterday, that even a particular group came out to say that we are not going to accept him as the national chairman of INEC. Why? According to them, he is a scholar. He's written several articles, theses, dissertations, if you like, and then he made some comments, that didn't sit well with this particular group. And they are saying he might be a little bit biased when it comes to, his decision-making as the chairman of INEC. It's a problem. This is like the second time people are calling for his resignation, but I don't see that happening. He's still fresh in that office. And let's cross over from that line to another line that says, gunmen kill 2, injure 2, and fresh plateau attacks. And from Daily Independent, let's cross to Nigerian Tribune. And I have the banner headline, still talking about, this old APC, ADC crisis. ADC themes, knocks INEC, ask Amupiton to quit. Vows to proceed with party congresses, says agenda is to make Tinubu the only option for electorate in 2027. Democracy at risk. Turaki-led PDP wants. PRP, SDP, Atiku, Obi Kwankwasu, and others. Really? That's a very interesting rider. And of course, you are architect of your misfortune. APC replies, ADC. Don't forget, the president said something, I think around last year. He said the opposition parties are in disarray. And I love to see it. I love to watch it. But at the end of the day, you really cannot blame. You cannot put all of this on the president or the APC. I say this all the time. Take PDP, for example. Even if a governor that used to be with the PDP, I'm talking about, Dauda Lawa of Zamfara State, he was interviewed one time and he said the major thing that is killing PDP is the ego of some big shot in the PDP, in the People's Democratic Party. Is that the fault of the president? Is that the fault of the ruling party? See, I always say this thing, when people cry, they should also ensure that they can see. Yeah, maybe it might be possible, allegedly, but then what about the internal issues as well? The Labour Party too. There was this whole problem between Nandi Abure, the back and forth, it was intense. This is not the first time that we see opposition parties having crises, but yeah, I think it's a little bit intense compared to the past, a few years. But it's an issue. I want to believe that they can resolve this before the elections, and of course, we won't have just one candidate on the ballot for the presidency. I have another headline that says Dangote NNPCL governor swell food bank with 65 billion naira, malnutrition a national emergency, and that's coming from the First Lady Oluremi Tinubu. And of course, because she's vocal, and then anything she says will always make the headline. She's the First Lady, and of course, she's saying that malnutrition is a national emergency, and she's very right about that, because a lot of persons are just eating. They're not even sure. They are not eating what can help them, health-wise. They just eat what they see, and that's because of the high level of poverty, in this country. Away from that line, let's also check this one that says Plateau killings. Tinubu insists killers must be identified. Orders 5,000 CCTV cameras for state. I think that's a good one. Mutwang thanks President for approval of 1,000 forest guards. I think it's a good one too. They can help the other security operatives in the country. Recent attack ploy to sabotage 2027 election. That's coming from former Governor Jang. Enough of condemnations. Acts now. Sharia Council tells government security agency. Of course, we crossed to Vanguard this morning, and I have these headlines. I don't know. I think ADC is that party that is really hot now. It's in ADC opera great INEX exin of Mark Aregbeshola is an ambush Nigerians should resist. That's coming from Afenifere leaders. So the ADC crisis, I don't know how they're going to resolve that, but then these are the issues. Nigeria worse today than Abacha era. Utomi Falana, others alleged. That's coming from the popular lawyer, son, Femi Falana, and of course, part of Tommy, the economist. They are saying Nigeria is worse, than the Abacha era. A lot of persons might actually say no to that. They might say, I beg to differ. That just like I said, some persons will tell you that the worst democratic government is still better than any military government. But it depends on who is explaining, it depends on who is talking. We can never see issues the same way, and that's one thing. It doesn't mean we are quarreling. It's not an attack. Where you see a particular issue this way, another person is seeing it in that way. It speaks to the issue of exposure, it speaks to the issue of mentality, it speaks to the issue of interpretation. So all of these things are responsible for how people see issues. And of course, this form our differences. It's not a problem. It doesn't mean we are fighting. It doesn't mean we should engage in fisticuffs. And that's why somebody will want to vote for APC, another person will want to vote for PDP. During the last election, we had husband and wife that didn't talk for weeks because of election. Because somebody wanted to vote for APC, the other person wanted to vote for PDP. And then they had to resolve the matter at the end of the day, because these people will not feed your family. Imagine if you are you quarrel for days or months. These people, whenever they win, they will not feed your family. And that's one thing we fail to understand in this country. There will always be differences. How do we manage those differences? I think that's the main issue right here. Another headline is saying, I was not deported. Alex Barber, American Christian activist, alleged smear campaign. I read a particular headline that said, he was deported, and then he's coming out to say that I was not deported, and things like that. So at the end of the day, I think we need to look good, not just in Nigeria, but in the global space. Another headline this morning is saying, ghost voters. INEC to embark on nationwide voter revalidation. I spoke about that already, and even though a lot of Nigerians are not comfortable, especially the opposition parties, about this whole revalidation, but INEC is coming out with a lot of new reforms, especially after the new electoral act, and then they are saying they want to embark on the revalidation nationwide. Good luck to INEC on that particular one. Another headline is saying, Appeal Court dismisses NBC's bid to overturn judgment restraining it from imposing fines. The NBC is always on the move. There's a saying, NBC is always listening about certain things that you're not supposed to say on air, about certain things you're not supposed to post, especially now that we're getting closer to election period. But then a bit of back and forth, between the parties, the court, and of course the judge, the court's ruling on this particular matter. Let's take a look at this line that says, EFCC seeks fine of a feature of 57 properties linked to Malami, and that's another headline taken from the Vanguard newspaper. We cross to the Punch newspaper and take a few headlines before we see our BYE on this particular segment. And I have this one that says 2027 Batu, INEC under fire as ADC crisis worsens. INEC defends Mark Arregbesol's deep recognition. Opposition leaders demand Amopiton's sack. ADC defies INEC and says convention will hold as planned. That's a bold move. The same thing PDP did last year for the convention when the court said do not have that convention because of the factional problems. But then PDP went ahead. I'm talking about the Wike faction. The convention was had, and then Wike on national TV alongside Fayoshi, his friend, said that was an Amala convention. Make no mistake by referring to it as a proper convention of the People's Democratic Party. ADCs also say we will embark on that convention. It doesn't matter what INEC is saying. Democracy must win. These are the words of the big shot of that party. I'm talking about the ADC now. Another airline is saying Makinde insists on Ali's crowning today despite Ibadan Oba's boycott. I mentioned it earlier that I read a particular headline that said that, the absence of Oba Rashidi Adewale Ladoja might actually mar the coronation of these persons. But then Makinde is saying, you see, one thing I know Makinde for, he knows how to insist. That's why I said during the PDP convention, he insisted that we are going to have that convention. It doesn't matter whether there's a court ruling or no court ruling. They came to Ibadan and they got another court injunction to say we are going to have this convention. And now Makinde is insisting again. He's very good when it comes to insisting. We say this is what we will do. He's a very firm individual, a very firm governor. He's saying that grounding we owed despite Ibadan Oba's boycott. We look forward to that, and of course we'll discuss this issue even on Monday. Thank you so much for being a part of this segment. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Don't forget, the polity is eating up. Many more drama, even as we progress to the next elections. Please stay with us. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we move on to Big Story. We'll be right back.
When tragedy strikes, the first response from those in power is often swift and predictable. Statements are issued, condemnations are made, and promises follow. But beyond the words, many Nigerians are beginning to ask critical questions. Are these responses truly about solving problems, or are they carefully crafted public relations ritual? Good morning and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live. I am Samson Balogun. And today, we examine a growing concern in our national discourse: crisis response, or PR ritual, the politics of condemnation. From violent attacks to communal clashes and national emergencies, condemnations have become a standard government response. Leaders express sympathy, assure justice, and vow decisive action. Yet, in many cases, the cycle repeats itself, raising doubt about the sincerity, effectiveness, and impact of these reactions. So, is condemnation a necessary first step in crisis management? Or has it become a substitute for real action? Are leaders genuinely constrained by systemic challenges? Or are citizens being fed carefully worded reassurances in place of tangible solution? So, to help us unpack this important issue, we are joined by Honorable Omolaja Olaoye. He brings his insight and perspective on this critical conversation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, immediately after the crisis in Plateau Jos, he condemned the act in its totality and made assurances that there will be no repeat of that. And over again, we have seen administrations make these kind of claims. From the PDP to the APC, communal clashes, banditry, insurgency across the country has refused to stop. But every time there is a crisis, we hear things like condemnation. We condemn in its totality. We summon all army chiefs to get to the bottom of this and arrest the perpetrators. And oftentimes, no one has been arrested. In Plateau, the incident just occurred. The president was in Jos yesterday. The question still remains: has there been one person that has been arrested just because of this? Do not forget, last year, a similar occurrence happened in Benue. The president charged the army chiefs and even queried why no one had been arrested at that time. But guess what? The story is still the same. We condemn. But what happens after condemnation? Do we have real actions after that? It's something we want to unpack on this show this morning. And I have with me Honorable Omolaja Olaoye. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning to you, Samson. Thanks for having me here today. And good morning to you at home who are listening and watching us as well.
Now, Honorable Omolaja, Nigeria has had, we have had countless condemnations after crises. And then, from attacks to disasters and some other things like that. So, at what point do these statements become more like a PR ritual and not real actions to be taken after the crisis has happened?
Seriously, what happened in Plateau State is so sad and is unhealthy, and it must be condemned by all. But the situation we have in Nigeria is that these occurrences of communal clash need to be stopped. Apart from the ritual of the government, who need to make statements all the time, because even if they don't want to make a statement, sometimes they are being forced by the opposition, who said probably we have a kind of a leader who doesn't have, and he has probably the heart of stone that doesn't sympathize with people. What we see in Plateau State, the government needs to say something. They really need to say something because in their mind, we have a security apparatus who's supposed to be on the top of the situation. And when a lot of them are failed in their duties, they are part of Nigeria as well. In a place like our developed world, inquiry is supposed to be made, even by the state government. We saw what happened during the time of NSAS, whereby Lagos State government constituted an inquiry in order to know how.
For your political party, for decisive actions when crises happen in some places.
This is not the This is not about political party.
Is it the way your political party is handling governance in the country?
It is not about political party. You must know that the communal crisis in Plateau State have started right from the time of Obasanjo. We have seen a lot of people that have been killed. We have seen a lot of cars, a lot of things that have been damaged, a lot of houses that have been burnt down. And mind you, we are even seeing the state governor, Joseph Dariye, supporting the disaster act. And is even arming some people, probably his own tribe, to be fighting. We saw what happened in Taraba and what's this state, whereby Theophilus Danjuma and a lot of service chiefs are the ones that are arming their people. We have seen a situation that about 9 or 10 or 18 army were killed because of communal clashes. This is not about APC. It happened throughout the 16 years of PDP.
So do you agree that consistent or repeated condemnation without decisive action or visible consequences often weaken public trust in governance?
It is not only about public trust, but because you are talking about conventional war and unconventional war. This kind of thing is unconventional war. Because when you are talking about conventional war, you know people to be able to, that you are going to face. But when you are talking about unconventional war, which contain this crisis, are those who you cannot even pinpoint. We have seen a situation that during the time of Buhari, we have seen that even when a lot of these bandits, even Boko Haram, were killed, we have seen Human Rights International who are condemning that a lot of civilians who doesn't know were killed as well. That is why this is the job of security service, who can be able to do a lot of intelligent gathering. They must be able to know the culprit and they must be able to fish them out. Even in the Bible, when they are looking for Jesus, we saw a disciple that are following him, and because of the security, they don't want to pick the wrong person. They make sure probably they bribe somebody. So that is why for you to arrest an innocent or kill an innocent, it is not right for any government to do.
So you agree that there is a war going on in the country?
It is not about the country.
You call it unconventional war.
It is sectional. We are talking about Oyo State. You are talking about
Plateau,
State. We are talking about
Kwara, Borno, Zamfara.
These are the black spots.
It is no longer sectional. It is taking over the country.
It has never taken over the country. It is sectional. That's what I'm saying.
It is moving to the southwest. Kwara is being affected. Communities are being sacked.
It's Kwara Southwest. If you want to be sincere,
or the share border with Southwestern states.
They might share border with Western states, no doubt about it. But they are still North Central. And you are talking about all these problems peculiar to North Central. You are talking about Plateau State, this is North Central. You are talking about Benue, North Central. You are talking about Taraba, North Central. You are talking about Nasarawa, North Central. A lot of these things are North Central. But when you are talking about the banditry, you are talking about the Northeast.
Kwara used to be relatively quiet.
It can be quiet, no doubt about it. But I am just saying these are sectional, and it affected some part. Despite the fact that the onus lies on the federal government to know how they are going to nip this on the ball.
So if unconventional war is going on in sectional part of the country, just like you said, in some sections, is the government winning this war, or are they losing?
The government is going to look for the solution.
Are they losing or winning?
It is not about losing. It is not peculiar to Nigeria. When United States of America went to Afghanistan, you are talking about unconventional war. They were there for a very long time and they lost the war. Because we must be able, the peace needs to be reigned among ourselves. By the time we are causing disunity among ourselves, by the time we are fighting each other, who do we know who to arrest?
But this is not Nigeria and Cameroon. This is Nigeria in Nigeria. Are we winning or losing this war?
we are fighting it, and it has been there for so many years. For so many years.
Are you saying now that we should justify the fact that the government has failed to win this war, and then it should continue?
No justification, because whenever there is no government, if there is no president of the government, you are going to know there is going to be anarchy. This is anarchy is setting in, but still the government is trying its possible best. It has been within themselves for years, even before the democracy. It was the democracy that makes this to be known. If it's a militocracy, somebody like you cannot be able to criticize the government. We are just going to be looking at it. But now we have the right to criticize the government, and the government has the right to know how they are going to protect their citizens. That is what is happening. You see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going there. That's for you to know that it's serious. Then you have not seen a president visiting those black spots. But what happened in Benue as well, when president visited, he gave them a marching order, and a lot of people were arrested. I believe a lot of people are going to be arrested in this case.
Now, who should be held responsible if this kind of crisis continues to happen, despite government assurances that it will not happen again?
It is the failure of the state government. Something similar happened during the administration of Engineer Shemakade, and he politicized it himself. He said the federal government are not doing enough, and when he went to Abuja, he saw a different kind of ball game. The question that was asked from then PMB, President Muhammad Buhari, was it that you are not, why are you not giving what's it called? Allocation. And what are you doing with your local government? Because he had got a report that the local government has been surcharged by the state government. What did the state government do? How many times have you had those clashes that happen in our state again? Because he doesn't know that it was his responsibility. Now that he knows his responsibility, they now concentrate a lot of vigilante group and different kind of group, and we have this what's it called? This Southwest Security Amateku. With what is Amateku doing on other state? They are really trying.
So before we listen to what the president said in Plateau yesterday, is condemnation gradually becoming a political tool used perpetually just to manage public anger rather than solve the problem itself?
Condemnation is forced. For you to know that whatever the actually act is being perpetrated by evil people must be condemned. It must be condemned totally because it's wrong. The government must do that. The government must say things that is going to make even not only Nigerians, the whole world. When the notion and the tag of Christian genocide were being raised in the United States, what do you think the government did? He has to condemn it. I said that it's not like that. Despite the fact that a lot of people have been killed, which is wrong, they must be able to face up to the challenge. But for you to tag it as a Christian genocide is wrong. That's for you to know that it's anything that has to do with killing of the people is being looked bad and condemned throughout the whole world. And the government, that is what the government must say. They must condemn it, and they must find a solution to the problem.
So, the president was in Jos, Plateau State yesterday. He arrived amid a low welcome. The spirit was low, but he had a lot to say. Let's listen to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And when we are back, there's a lot to talk about.
Who had accommodated us. I brought the symbol of this cap to break the shackle of violence, shackle of ignorance, shackle of poverty, shackle of hopelessness. We must break it together. I thank the men and women of the armed forces, particularly the police, for what they are doing and what they are about to do. You must unearth and find the killers. I'm glad IGP is here. I'm glad Koas is here too, Chief of Army Staff. I'm glad the Minister of Defense is here. Our dear leaders, I've been to Jos, I've enjoyed Jos in those days of peace. We've held our political activities here. Yaya Kande, I'm glad you are still alive. We thank God for you and many of you. Thank you. I used to point to your house where we spend the night, where the leaders, both the leaders of our politics, where I was active as a young man. You accommodated us. You opened your doors for us. Then why do we build a division? Our promise then was progressive development, improved standard of living for our people. Not to bury, but to develop. Immediately we returned to Abuja. The committee, as mentioned, you increased the number of leaders, including Natawe, the governor, and the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. The minister, thank you. Come see me. Take numeric analysis. You are a data person for the victims. Let's see what we can do. For their losses, we cannot replace in human beings. But whatever we do to give them minimum comfort, we will.
That was the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, right there in Jos, Plateau State, yesterday. Honorable Mola Jaulawi, you listened to what the president said. Some said his speech there, the entirety of it, was not so content-filled. That was not what some people wanted to hear from the president. What's your opinion about that?
I think you are being unfair, Samson, because what I heard just now, it's a very emotional
Is that
speech.
a message of hope?
It is the core problem of our society. He was talking about the shackle of this unity. If there is unity, do you think there can be this kind of killing? He was talking about to break the shackle of poverty. A lot of people talk about how they committed crimes and how they involve in criminality because they are because of their poverty nature. And you are talking about shackle of ignorance. How can an human being be killing each other if it's not for ignorance sake, because of any clashes on land, or because of superiority or their belief, their ancient beliefs? He was talking about ignorance as well. Those are the core problems. If it can be solved, we are not going to be having this kind of problems.
So critics have said that government officials are quicker to send messages out, of course release press releases out there to condemn. But when it comes to taking decisive actions, they are usually very slow. So what could be the problem?
Like I said to you, this problem you are having is an unconventional kind of problem, because you don't know even the head or the back, this and that. But I love what President Tinubu did right now. That is the way he involved them in Benue State, because when it's like an adage that says that when the head of a child is being buried at the back of the mother. It's only the elders that know how they are going to be able to adjust it. By the time he involved all these leaders and elders in Plateau State and he involved them in Benue State, we have seen the kind of cleaning and the fighting. It has abated right now in Benue, like the way it's been done before. This problem can be solved. Let them talk like human beings. It wasn't an invader that killed all these people. It's people among themselves.
So you have insisted that government has always taken steps. So what concrete policy or actions can you point to that says or shows all the direction that the government has always taken actions when it comes to critical situations like this?
I am telling you sincerely, the problem that body Plateau State is Plateau's problem, despite the fact that it's the Nigerian problem. But there must be inquiry. It is normal for the state government, the state governor, to set up an inquiry. And this inquiry is going to be known to the people, to the public. They must outline the problems from different people, from different ethnic groups, from different community, and they must identify what is causing these problems.
So you have mentioned right at the beginning of this show that condemnation is absolutely necessary. It is
necessary. It is
that
necessary.
the government will respond and, of course, sends a message out there for the people to know that they are on the
for
case.
the world, not even the people, for the world to know that the government are not even supporting this. They hate it. They don't like it.
So if condemnation comes first, what should be the next step? For
It is
them to
inquiry.
show seriousness in leadership.
Seriousness. That is what the government of the state must not do. They must set up an inquiry. Inquiry is to know the causes of the problem and the solution. And it is not going to be done by one person. It is going to be done by the pool of the people. It must be done. We have seen during the time of who set Babangida, or who set up this panel of inquiry that asks about what has been happening for a very long time. Inquiry needs to be set. By the time the state government set an inquiry, they must identify the problem. They have different kind of security outfit that is going to be able to channel all the information to them. That is the way it's being done. It is the first responsibility of the government, and it's the state government that is going to notify the federal government what needs to be done. The inquiry needed.
So, Honorable, would you honestly admit that in some cases, sometimes, these condemnations are always in disconnection with the realities on ground?
It is not. It is not. Because, like what happened between when you are talking about Christian genocide, if the government are not making references to what has been happening for a very long time, that the government are not in support of all this criminality, don't you just imagine what the United States government will have done to Nigeria when Nigeria has been set to the part of probably a nation of a concerned nation, and government was able to defend himself when you are talking about this, and he even allowed them to come in to strike some places. For you to know that condemnation is the first thing, the first key thing, the first response of the government, and then there need to be solution. And thank God, he called all the services, both the police, both the army, both the navy. Their name were called for them to know that this must be done. And when a lot of leaders and elders were present, he even challenged them to know how they are going to make sure that this problem is being solved. Ignorance is the key.
So, if you were to advise President Bola Ahmed Tinubu this morning, what would you tell him to change about how crises are solved, handled, and communicated?
It's on top of this crisis management. It's on top of this crisis management. He started governing Lagos State since 1999.
Some of you are always referenced to Lagos.
Yes.
But Nigeria is a complex case.
Because that is where the problem started. That is where the problem of Egbesu Boy, that is where Odua People Congress was created. You know, that is, a lot of clashes were happening in Lagos, a lot of killing, people are being burned alive. And the problem was solved. I am not trying to arouse his ego or try to glorify him. I'm just making reference because the references are there. The book are there to be opened. The people are there to be read. and he solved it. Ever before Bukola, ever before banditry, all these problems started from Lagos, and it was captured. Even when you are talking about robbery as well, it started from Lagos. Serious robbery. And when this problem was solved, I will not doubt his efficacy when it's come to how he's going to be on top of the problem. And he has challenged a lot of people. He never said he can be the only one that is going to solve it. He challenged the service chief. He's challenged the leader, the elders. All of them is who he challenged.
As a member
And
of
he
the-
even make reference to humanitarian ministers who was there present, that he can be able to give data if for the poverty level to be able to be solved or called.
just
he
for
is
the
going
few
to be
that
able
were
to.
on sea.
It is not about that. That why is there we have Minister of Humanitarian Affairs for them to solve Nigerian problem. It is not for them, for Minister of Humanitarian Affairs to solve Togo's problem or Ghana's problem. It is meant for Nigerian problem.
Honorable Mola Jalawi, how difficult has it been for you to openly criticize your own political party on radio?
It is not about I love. That is what I love. Others to call.
Are members of your political party doing enough to hold your party accountable, especially now they are in power at the federal level?
They must be held accountable.
The things you condemned as an opposition back then are the things that are happening now, and you are defending it.
I am not defending it because I have seen a situation that a president said the problem of Bukhara is belong to the north, not belong to the south. And for you to know that word is reckless. I have seen that a president has said stealing is not corruption. They must hold themselves responsible for that. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he made any mistake, he's going to be able to know how to plead and beg for it. It is not about me supporting my political party. It is when any of them does wrong, we are going to be able to face them, of course, because they are not invisible. They can be able to, for you, when you make a mistake, when you say you are sorry, it is accepted. We have seen a president of the United States who has committed a lot of error, even killed a lot of school children in Iran, and he has never admitted and said sorry.
Lastly, is your political party too focused on politics that governance is slipping away from their fingertips?
The governors are not ever slipping away from fingertips, and if they are not concentrated on politics, you are going to see that the opposition are going to lie to the people, and they are going to mess up the situation. They are going to come in and mess up the situation. Anything, the truth must be said. For anybody that tells lies, the world knows, and the words are not full. They know who to trust between the light and the darkness.
Honorable Bola Jalawi, thank you for joining us on the show this
Thank you for having me.
All right. It is clear that while words may offer comfort in moments of pain, citizens are increasingly demanding more accountability, more actions, and more results. As the debate continues on, one thing is clear and remains certain. The true measure of leadership is not just in what is said during a crisis, but in what is done after the headline fades. Thanks to my guest, Honorable Mola Jalawi, for sharing his thoughts with us today on the show. You have been watching The Big Story on Daybreak Live Extra. I am Samson Balogun. Stay informed, of course stay engaged, and keep the conversation going. Up next is Trend Watch.
Thank you for staying with us. Of course, let's now go to what's trending across the country. What's trending is something that's been trending, that I've been talking about, we keep talking about it. Atiku and Tinubu over Plateau visit that didn't go beyond airports, condemns transporting of grieving citizens. Just like you've just seen in the video during the big story, you could see that, of course, many persons have been asking questions as to why should it just be a reaction? Because they said this administration is reactionary rather than being proactive. So once something happens, the trend has been that now the government will come out to say, oh, we decried this situation. And then the next thing, send military chiefs, and then the same thing.
And
you now see, exactly, you see the same issue in another place. So it's like a trajectory that is recurrent. You see a trend of it. It's a script. It's a pattern. So it's more like the president has a script to say, oh, but the president does not like this. The presidency decries this kind of activity.
Condemns
we condemn this. You know, you get all of those words, and then they keep using the cliches, and people don't get to see the end of this because we still have the same issue again in another place. So this has been the conversation. I think I wrote something, an article recently, and I titled it Reactive Assurances. It's more like it's reactive when something happens. The president says, we don't like this, we don't want this to happen, and then that's all there is to it. Atiku is coming out to say again this time around that anyway, what the president went to say there was it's immaterial, because at the end of the day, nothing gets to happen. Something again will happen somewhere else, and you can also find. But some have also said it's political. But whatever the case is, the loss of lives in the country is abysmal, and it's something we should not accept.
Okay, so there's this popular saying, a man is not better than his words. And then, so Nigerians are saying this is not the first time that the president will promise us something. He said that this attack will not happen again in Plateau State. Before he became president, especially around the 2011-12, intense crisis in Plateau State. But now he's coming out to say we won't have this crisis again or this attack again. You know, and that's something to hold on to. Because when he went there, see, before he even went there, a lot of politicians and Nigerians said, why is it that the president is not always, you know, sympathetic towards the people in terms of visiting these people? Your water case that you mentioned, it didn't get to the place where it happened because of the bad rule. And there, I think rain fell that day. So that was the defense. But for Plateau State, a lot of persons are asking questions. Why is it that, you know, I think he even said he was there for 10 minutes. I don't know why he arrived at that, you know, duration. He said he was there for just 10 minutes. So these are the issues. And then I read the story.
No, that was not true. That wasn't true.
He said it was there for 10 minutes. So maybe it's debatable, just like you mentioned. So one more thing is, I think the president did certain things that is commendable. He said, I think they've introduced about 1,000 forest guards to, you know, just help the security operators, especially because they're overstretched. And I think about 850 soldiers or so were also deployed to the place. So will that tackle the situation, you know, without, you know, suppress the issue, without keep the people of Plateau State safe? You need to see videos. There was a particular video showing it online where that mother held the son.
She was there yesterday.
It's sad, honestly. She held the son, and then you could...
And that was the only child.
That was the only child. It's sad, though, because even pictures are flying around about people who lost their lives. There was a particular young lady, too, who cried bitterly about the death of her father. Honestly, we don't deserve to go through. No one deserves to go through that in this particular nation. So beyond that, I don't know whether this promise that the president, you know, made recently, whether we can hold on to it, you know, whether at the end of the day we won't see this attack again in Plateau State forever, and then it should cut across all the state, not just in the Plateau State alone, because, I mean, that's the real issue here. Insecurity is something we can't, I don't even know how we got here. We can actually deal with it. We helped other countries, neighboring countries, to solve insecurity. So why has it become something so serious that we cannot nip in the bud? It is sad, really.
That's why some people would say, and opine that security challenge in Nigeria is politically motivated. And you wouldn't want to argue that or debate it, especially with the current trajectory and how things happen. I'll cite a very big instance. When the president went to Benue State, for example, he went there. I also made this kind of promise there. But one thing that has been clear since he went to Benue was that there hasn't been any major attack in Benue. What happened there, we don't know. But I think to some extent, we have not really had an explosive attack like we just saw in Plateau now. So maybe his visit to Plateau will also make a difference. And maybe we should just beg the president to also visit Kwara State, because as it stands, yes, Omola Jaola, he rightly pointed that Kwara is in the north central. That's what we are saying is more or less like a north center crisis in the middle belt as it stands. But then Kwara shares boundary with a lot of states. Shares boundary with Oyo State, shares boundary with Osun State, and even Ekiti, because Modba local government, is quite close to Ekiti. So we are going to see the inflow of these people into the southwestern states. If care is not taken, we'll begin to see infiltration of bandits and some other people into the southwestern states. But the president should maybe, if his visit has a lot of change to be made, then he should continue to visit these places and put an end to this crisis. And lastly, before we leave this and take comments, I think one thing is certain now, as Yemi rightly pointed the other time, the president was in Plateau State. But Atiku also made a comment about him being there for 10 minutes. I don't think that is true, because the president said while he was leaving that he has to leave this place in the next 10 minutes. So probably that was what he heard and just said, oh, he was here for 10 minutes. But he made it clear that I'm here, you have no light. He complained about some things and the facility itself, that this is not the best situation, that the condition is not too conducive, and then there is no light. I have to leave this place in 10 minutes. And do not forget that he had to shelve an appointment. He was traveling, actually. And then he actually posted and said, I have to shelve this and then go to Plateau State. Right. It's not because anyone said he should go to Plateau State. It is because he felt it was necessary for him to be there. And even if people make noise about him being there and it doesn't go, I don't think there's anything anyone can do about it other than to talk about it on social media, and that will be the end of it. But then let's all begin to now see it from a different perspective. Let's take things from the angle of, rather than visit, what are the solutions? Because visit is not the only thing that could be done. We can condemn from now till tomorrow and nothing will be done about it. So let's talk about the solution rather than visit, and let's take comments. I think here, the first comment, Amara Uche says, it doesn't identify with the people. It doesn't understand their plane. The visit was probably because threats were coming from the U.S. back to back.
And of course, a better Nigeria is possible. I love her name. He's saying, is Atiku trying to say Mr. President is scared of stepping into a state in Nigeria?
That's absolutely,
the question.
That cannot be true.
Let me take this from Factor. It says, President's airport only visit to Plateau screams no confidence in our bloated security apparatus despite trillions allocated yearly with zero result, pure optics over action. And
Fred is saying, Tinubu did the same after Yewata massacre. Nigeria is dealing with a cap of incompetence. That's one thing about receipts. People always make reference to whatever it is you did in the past. Right.
Well, it's a convenient place to leave the show this morning. So thank you for joining us so far on this show. Do well to join us again next week. Same time, same station, of course, same host, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. But do not forget to also link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. Like our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. Samson Balogun is my name. As I always say, security business is everybody's business. So if you see something, say something. Until next week, keep being safe out there.
All right, my name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Before I go, remember that any statement that has the capacity to be misunderstood is likely to be misunderstood. You want to be intentional about the things you say and, of course, your actions. Please join us on Monday. Bye for now.
And to every leader, I say, there's a fine line between manipulation and influence. So as leaders, manipulating people is not good. Do what is right by influencing people positively, not manipulatively. My name is Anulu Akwedo. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.